Yo, what's good, everyone? Momo here. I know I've been kind of inactive as of late, but I do want to become more active come Season 2. And before we get into Season 2, there was this video Man uploaded about his take on Season 2 Devil Jin, whether to buff or nerf, and I thought some of his takes were so interesting. I genuinely wanted to make a reaction video out of it to get my final thoughts on Devil Jin, what I think they should be doing with him for Season 2 going. And yeah, let's get right into it. Kind of appreciate his face here. Anyway.
What's up, guys? TheMainManSWE's here, or is it MustacheManSWE's?
The mustache really suits him though.
Hope you're all doing awesome as always. I get a lot of requests every single day to talk a little bit about Devil Jin. I think he's the character people get the most emotional about.
Yeah, both the players and the people who play against him.
Feel he should be stronger because he's a very technical character. He is a character for experts.
Which is a cool thing, by the way.
But that doesn't mean that he doesn't do well in ranked. Most of you lose to Devil Jin all the time. He has the highest win rate out of the Mishimas. Why is this? Well, it's because he has Samsara, he has back free, he has parry, he has charge up punch. He's got like super cheesy stuff.
Yep.
If your opponent is a beginner or an intermediate. As soon as you climb the ranks and you get to like Tekken God rank and you're going up against high level players or competitive players, they don't let you get away with shit like this. They wait, they're patient, and then they launch you every single time. Highly effective character against beginner and intermediate, and this is where you find the majority of players, and hence his win-loss ratio is very strong. The higher up you go, the more poorly this character performs, and this is why he's nowhere to be seen in competitive play.
And this is like already one point I want to talk about. This is like one thing you can already attack for balancing. If he's too strong in like beginner and intermediate ranks because his like gimmick utility is too strong or like too hard to counterplay for them, one thing you could do is like, if you have two spectrums, one would be the gimmicky stuff, the other would be the solid fundamental stuff. One thing you could do is like nerf the gimmicky stuff in order to make it more counterplayable or like easier to deal with, or just lessen the reward by a huge margin. And then in turn, you can compensate for it by buffing the solid and fundamental stuff, which will kind of shift the bars closer of like gimmicky and fundamental, which in my opinion is already a good start for balancing this character.
And that's why people meme all the time, are we gonna nerf Devil Jin for Season 2? And then people ask me, what do you want to see on this character? First, let's just explain his problems. This character released with Tekken 5 and he was S tier. And then he was S tier, S tier, S tier,
Yeah.
S tier, S tier, S tier, S tier.
Until like Tekken 7 Season 3, where it was just outside of top 10.
He was S tier for pretty much the entire duration up until season, was it season 4.5?
Yeah, he was mid tier.
He went from S tier to mid tier. They gutted his damage and his neutral. Upward 4 used to knock down into a guaranteed back 4, but they removed that.
Thank God.
The character took big hits. He used to always be pretty much a more all-round Kazuya and a stronger Kazuya. He would 50-50 you. And
yeah, it was kind of boring when you compared those two characters.
Very strong poking.
Like, if you really wanted to win, there was no reason to pick Kazuya over Devil Jin.
Perfect frog game, can I do it? And high damage. He was like very all-round, could do anything, and could arguably 50-50 better than Kazuya. There was never a reason to play Kazuya in competitive play. For Tekken 8, the developers go, he needs a new identity, he needs to be unique, he needs to do something different, and suddenly this stuff happens.
And I think this is a cool thing. Like, I kind of appreciate what they were trying to do with Tekken 8 Devil Jin, because I do feel like he's finding his own character. He's much cooler design-wise, and his animations and like aesthetics and visuals are really cool, which is pretty much the main reason why I'm still playing him. Like, I didn't really drop in at a single point of this game. I just feel like the execution was a bit off, with like, especially with the nerfs and stuff. I already thought the character had a bit of a flawed design at the release of this game. I even posted my thoughts on this on Twitter. As I said, I feel like the execution was a bit off. And I feel like it's not that hard to fix come Season 2. But I genuinely do appreciate what they were trying to do with Devil Jin. He's more of a specialist character now. He looks much cooler. Like, it's all I could ask for, honestly.
That's right. He shackles from a million miles away, tracks like crazy, he's got Morning Crow into all kinds of fucking things. He's got a crazy charge up punch. Stuff like this is happening. In this game, they're doubling down on gimmick utility.
Which is kind of annoying to
Very
deal with, I'm not gonna
gimmicky,
lie.
punishing people for pressing into him. If you don't have a lot of patience, Devil Jin blows you up, right? And if you don't know how to deal with charge up punch, it might as well be the best move in the game, right?
Pretty much.
And they nerfed so much about him. Like, his jab went from one of the best to like garbage. It's down for the one. Absolute dumpster garbage. And all
I feel like these are already two moves they should be touching for Season 2. The jab on its own isn't even that bad. The range is kind of average, like it's fine. But what they changed with his jab coming from Tekken 7 is that it has a much higher hitbox now. Like, if it used to be somewhere around here, it's now like up here. And this is also the reason why you see it with a lot against moves. Like, it's super easily avoidable. And in general, just fucks you over on a lot of interactions where your jab is supposed to be hitting, but then the animation the opponent uses just slightly off, or like slightly below, and you just whiff, which in turn will often look like you lack the range, but in reality it just lacks the hitbox to do anything. For down forward one, I feel like it doesn't need to be changed much. I've gotten used to it at this point. I feel like it's a really cool tool at the wall. I just think, and I'm going to elaborate on this later, I just think -6 is a dumb number considering his design in this game.
Also, his neutral is crap compared to a lot of neutrals in this game. Shackle is a good move. It tracks a lot, it's got a lot of reach. On block turns into a mix-up that's a little bit risky for Devil Jin. If you go for the one option, they can float you out of the air with
They
a
can
jab.
also sidewalk.
Demon Paw is the weakest Mishima Demon Paw.
And I knew he was going to tackle this in this video, but at the same time, I don't think his Demon Paw needs to be, like, range and tracking doesn't need to be buffed in any way. Yes, the range and tracking may not be the best, but I feel like the one thing that should set it apart from other Demon Paws, and I've said this before, should be the pushback. Like, Devil Jin kind of has the OG Demon Paw, and I feel like he should be the one to keep that pushback, because Kazuya and Jin, if they space the 4-4-2 on tip range, it's still very hard to check them. There's still some pushback in between, especially because of the range, and they can still work around with creating buff opportunities and similar. Devil Jin can't really do that, because his Demon Paw lacks so much range, you can't literally, and even though he was supposed to be like more of a space control character in this game, it's very hard to create with opportunities, if even with that new Demon Paw, like without the pushback. So I feel like the one thing they should do is give him back the pushback, and that's pretty much it. I don't think it needs more tracking, I don't think it needs more range. Devil Jin is supposed to be brawling up close more anyway with that Demon Paw of his, especially utilizing it with movement, whereas Kazuya, for example, uses it more for tracking his weak side, and Jin uses it for, you name it, whatever the hell he wants to use it for. But yeah, with Devil Jin, I feel like he should be the one to keep that pushback at the very least. Range and tracking, it's fine, in my opinion. Doesn't need to be touched.
Used to be much better. Poor reach, poor tracking. Upward 4, poor tracking.
Track's
poor
okay,
reach,
track
gets
sides
floated
left.
out of it by a jab. Forward 4, no tracking.
Also track sides left.
The neutral is just high committal like Heihachi. It's tough to play as neutral. That's the backstory. And now to the question, do I want to see him get buffed? It's a very tricky question, because in Tekken 8, in my opinion, I've said this a million times, there's no such thing as low tier in this game. That was Tekken 7 and prior games. The worst your character is in this game, in my opinion, is mediocre. It's just that, why are you gonna play Devil Jin when Dragunov exists? Or
This is where I have somewhat of a controversial opinion at this point. I know I used to have a lot of controversial opinions on this character, I guess, but the more I spend time optimizing this character and actually putting in the effort to like bring out a lot of potential in him, maybe not the most potential, but you know, you get what I mean. I feel like this character is not the bottom 5 character people are saying he is. They don't give him the credit he deserves. Well, he doesn't deserve that much credit, but still. I feel like this character is just above bottom 5, which may not mean much, especially when you're up against top tier characters in this game, but I feel like this character is somewhat better than I originally thought, I guess. Like, the more time I spent looking into characters like Raven or Leroy and even some others, especially like Panda, like the worst tier I would use if I made a tier list in this game, and I did make a tier list before, is A tier. The only character I would put below A tier would be maybe Panda, though even that is kind of arguably wrong, because Panda is still a strong character, it's still a bear, still has a lot of dumb stuff to work with, very strong combo tools, you know, and you name it. And I don't feel Devil Jin is next to those characters. Like I feel like he's still slightly above them. I feel he's stronger than we thought. But obviously that's only if you really manage to bring out all of the potential in him, which is this is like the main difficulty. You have to put in a lot of time to make this character work. And if you only play him on a surface level, it's just ass. It's like very mediocre. Hence why I feel like you should, like, if you want to make an expert character out of this, like, you should at the very least give him some more reward for being a specialist with him.
Or Fengwei, or Nina, or Yoshi, or his big brother, Jin. Jin is a wanker, but holy shit is he stronger than his alter ego. Why would you play Devil Jin over Jin?
Oh, the looks and the fun factor.
Sense.
Devil Jin is so much fun in this game.
Harder to play and has 10% of Jin's strength. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And again, this is where I hope Season 2 fixes things. But the most important thing they can do with Season 2 is nerf. Nerf, 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 nerf. I don't... Nerf, nerf, nerf. I'm a piggy. I don't believe too much in buffing the characters. And that includes Devil Jin, because he still has bullshit. But do I think they should buff him? Yeah, I think he does deserve a buff. The thing with Devil Jin, it's like all the other characters you would put in low tier in Tekken 8, I feel like you don't really need to buff them. They just need to see the, you know...
I think there's some
OP
characters who have a lot of inconsistencies that should be looked at.
There's the argument of like, he's so difficult. Like, he's so execution demanding. Game plan is tough as well. Like, you've got incredible highs, you've got incredible lows, and your highs include a perfect throw game. It's just that your mids are so dumpster.
And they shouldn't change anything about this either. His power mids being bad always used to be like one of his main weaknesses. Obviously, he still had up 4 into back 4 and Tekken 7 is like middle factor, which used to be too strong in my eyes because I hate the flip over mechanic. But I don't think they should bring that back either. I think there's a huge difference between buffing his power mids, which would in turn break the character very easily, and buffing his fast mids, which he used to check, for example. I don't think buffing his down forward 1 or maybe similar mids like maybe back 1+2, which I do think they should also buff to give him like something new to work with, because one of his main problems with his mids is that there's just very little versatility. Give him some new stuff to work with and buff his fast checks just a slight bit. And I say fast checks, but it's honestly just this down forward 1 that should be taken, like they should be taking a look at. Whereas his power mids, I wouldn't really touch. Like 4-4-2 pushback, I do think it should come back, but other than that, I don't think they should buff his power mids. Not like some people even say he should make back 4-2-3 wall split, but not even that. I don't think he needs that.
But strong highs and lows, you know, it's a pretty fucked up game plan.
It's kind of hard. It's hard to be unpredictable.
And he's so option selected as well, by like step right duck. Due to the difficulty of game plan and execution, I do believe Devil Jin deserves to be stronger. But I'm also afraid of a situation where they actually buff, you know, jab or down for the 1, down for the 1-2, and suddenly they fix these problems.
Now, these are like the 2 moves that I would say are unproblematic if they do end up buffing them. Down for 1-2, like the extension, I wouldn't touch at all. I wouldn't make it a natural combo, as people say, because that would, what would it really do? It would just incentivize Devil Jin players to kill themselves even more. That's just how it is. They would just rip the down for 1-2. Oh, suddenly I'm dead. There's no mid extension. So it's better to not touch that. It's much better off as a counted confirmable tool. And as I said, buffing the jab wouldn't do, like it wouldn't break the character. I know he has 1-1 to make up for that bad single jab of his, but 1-1 is just 3 times more susceptible than a normal jab, and even a single jab is worse in this game, especially on with like people finally manage to consistently launch them on with, not on reaction, but like dialing a sidestep into electric or down for 2, which used to be much harder in Tekken 7. It's like that jab does, I like, as I said, I don't think it breaks the character, and I think some slight tweaking would benefit him a lot.
And Devil Jin becomes a monster. And we know everyone is getting a new move. God knows what we're going to give Devil Jin.
Probably a new full crouch move.
So it is tricky, but I do agree you need to buff a character. One buff I want to see is the very unfortunate things that happened to the character with the release of Tekken 8. Due to this Devil Jin being so new,
yeah, the witch hunt, the week 1 witch hunt,
very new moveset, even pro players assumed he was going to be broken, because everyone fell for the gimmick utility. Everyone was like, oh my god, he's so fucking OP. Everyone ate this shit. Oh my god, tech roll, a million damage. And
We didn't even used to do this in the beginning.
He was like top
Hellsweep
5.
was so much damage on its own.
But then turns out he was never as strong as people thought. All people needed was some time to get accustomed to new animations and moveset and learn how to deal with the moveset, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's not even top tier. But people were so vocal on social media.
Yeah, Twitter decides on balancing.
Complaining about him all the time, but Devil Jin got a ton of nerfs that were completely unjustified. Although, obviously one that was justified was the old Psycho Crusher.
Yeah, and that was a stupid design. You can argue for it as much as you want that Heat Smash Office was just plain stupid design. Making an opponent freeze just by your Heat bar existing is shitty design. Because what will you end up doing? You will just go in and mix. And if you feel you're forced to mix them just to get anything going, I mean, it's both shitty for you and the opponent. So like, I'm glad they got rid of the tracking, but the one thing they could have kept as is was the range, in my opinion. Because now the opponent just does one single backdash at like range 2, or like maybe range 3, and it just whiffs by so little space, and I just die for it. It's so weird now. Such a weird Heat Smash. I mean, it's still a lot of damage, still wall breaks, which in my opinion shouldn't. I just feel like in comparison to other Heat Smashes, it's very lacking like chip damage and situational block, whereas other Heat Smashes will give you a guaranteed mix-up on block and, you know.
Full screen, wouldn't it? Like from here. And it was homing. There was nothing you could do.
But I don't think that should
So basically when he's in heat, he's holding a gun to your ball sack and you don't do anything because he can at any point pull the trigger, right? So with Jin, you're still in that situation, but Devil Jin used to be obscene in this regard.
Yeah, but what they should be doing instead is nerf every Heat Smash to Devil Jin's level. Yes, he did deserve that nerf. And I'm gonna be very honest here. Doing round start backdash into Hellsweep in like the first week of Tekken 8, just to still see them launched, even though they backdashed as well, was criminal. I hate the idea of launching Hellsweeps to begin with. I don't think, like, you need to understand this. Launching Hellsweep is the reason we have such a tough time getting by with this character to begin with. Like, all of our other tools were nerfed to compensate for that Hellsweep. The best thing to do, honestly, would just to either make this Hellsweep heat only, because I don't see why he would be able to access a laser move outside of heat, which would in turn give you more incentive to use heat moves. Like, his heat currently is very lackluster, I believe. I think the best way to go about it, at least in my opinion, and I've been watching a lot of old Devil Jin gameplay as of late, like Tekken 6 and Tekken Tag 2 gameplay. I love that Devil Jin. Shout out to Nee for playing him in a very cool way back then. I feel like you should make that launch, either remove it entirely or make it heat only, and then in turn bring back the old range and damage of CD4. Now that's 7 damage, should go back to 10 and bring back the old range as well. And in turn make the launch heat only, because I don't think you should have access to a low launcher at any point in the game. It just makes it super obnoxious to fight the character at times. Like, of course you're never going to be consistent with that game plan, but you can always lose to Devil Jin, I feel like, especially if they end up buffing him somewhat, and it's mostly because of that launching Hellsweep. I feel like it would be a much better approach to tweak the launching Hellsweep around a bit, as I said, lock it behind heat, and then in turn buff some of his other tools, which would make him more fun to play in turn as well.
I don't think so. Why? Because his mids are so shit. Did he deserve to have the damage of his Hellsweep gutted? I don't think so.
I think they should bring back the old damage.
Absolutely not.
If they make it heat only.
Did he deserve to have his Demon Paw gutted? I know they wanted to be fair and say, A, we nerfed Jin's Demon Paw. So we gotta be fair, otherwise Jin mains complain, we gotta nerf that guy's Demon Paw as well. No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Like, every Demon Paw has a different purpose in this game, I feel like. Well, at least for the Mishimas. Kazuya uses it to track his weak side. It's like the best thing he could have gotten, honestly, for his neutral. Jin uses it for whatever he wants to, either for the range or like the phantom range, or for tracking. Like, his track's even better than Devil Jin's. And Devil Jin just kind of uses it for the space control unlock, and as a mid check, like, not as a mid check, but like a power mid. He didn't really use it for the tracking or the range. If you wanted to make a track, you would use movement with it, but Kazuya and Jin don't really need to do that. They just hold the second forward input just a slight bit, and it tracks really well. For Devil Jin, it's like the pushback was super important to make that move really shine. It was the main reason he didn't need more power mids to work with because that pushback, you could use it to create with opportunities a lot. It used to be really strong as a result. Now it's just very lackluster and doesn't have much purpose to be used except for landing a mid.
It was already bad. It was already the worst, and then they nerfed it. And now it's like, doesn't have a hitbox. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has a hitbox. I'm exaggerating, but this Demon Paw is extremely lackluster.
Yeah.
Poor tracking, poor reach, poor hitbox.
And as I said, you don't need to touch the
could be to
reach or
every
tracking.
single nerf except for this one. They also nerfed Morning Crow 1. They toned down damage and track.
Morning Crow 1. They really need to revert this move. They said they were gonna increase the sidestep buffer window in Season 2. The main reason Morning Crow 1 was so fucking annoying to deal with was because after like up forward 1 on block, like if you made the bot in practice mode sidewalk Morning Crow 1 after up forward 1, he would pull it off perfectly every single time. But when an actual human being tried to do it, the sidestep buffer window was so low, it was just impossible to sidewalk it properly. You would just get caught out by the second active frame. Now that they buffed the sidestep buffer window, it should be fine. You should be able to sidewalk it consistently, which is the main point. Either you sidewalk Morning Crow 1 or you eat Morning Crow 2 instead. So the other reason why I think they need to revert Morning Crow 1, like once for one, the Morning Crow 1 Oki after 112. In general, I feel like that was a much cooler implementation of Oki for a 1, Mishima 1-2 than just wave dash in and do your mix up, which is kind of boring in my opinion. And like Morning Crow is not really your average mix up stance, more like a controlling stance, more like a, well, it's not really rush down, but you get what I mean. Morning Crow 1 used to do 10 chip damage. So especially in heat, you did a lot of chip damage with that move. I think it was like 12 or 13 chip damage in heat. Without heat, it's like 10 chip damage on block, 25 damage on normal hit, which was really good. It gave you a reason to actually press into Morning Crow, because if you ended up blocking too many Morning Crow 1s in a row, your health bar would just decline really fast. Now it's just super neglectable. 6 chip damage is not a lot for a move like that. And you can just keep blocking and blocking against Morning Crow stands. Just not really have a reason to press into it. If it ends up going back to 10 chip damage, you would have a reason to press into it again. You don't need a low from Morning Crow. That's just toxic design once again. You don't want that. But at least reverting Morning Crow 1 changes would once again benefit the character a lot without making him all too annoying to fight, especially if they buff the sidestep window, as they said.
I'm not sure you had to do that. They also removed Ferrari tech. I don't know if
I
you
miss
guys
Ferrari
remember,
tech.
but
It's one of the coolest things about the character. And the counterplay was so easy too. It's such a shame they removed it. It's like damage control.
I don't remember exactly how to do this. He would do this, and then you would do post combo ender. You would fly in with Morning Crow 2-2, and you would 180 around them. So you would come up their ass after the tech roll and get this, or of course launch. Like, tech traps like that are very interesting.
Yeah, and as I said, the counterplay is easy as well.
Devil Jin? Tricky business, tricky utility, rather than being another fundamental Mishima character. So if that's the new direction with the character and his new identity, why do you remove such an interesting and unique tech trap?
Hard agree here.
That only he could do, considering he's the only character with this dash in Morning Crow business.
There's a lot of things that are unique to Devil Jin that just ended up removing.
The character interesting, and the counterplay was there. The counterplay was stay on the ground.
Like, one of the main things about this kind of stuff, like character specific stuff, it also encourages like player expression. Like, managing to pull this kind of stuff off consistently, especially against strong players. Not only is it more hype to watch in tournaments, also, as I said, it's player expression, not just character expression. And this is what you need on a specialist character. You can't just take away this kind of stuff, because otherwise every Devil Jin player will just look the same if you end up taking this kind of stuff away one by one.
Right? So in my opinion, revert all the nerfs except
well, not
for
all
the
of them,
heat
but
smash, and then when it comes to buffing the character, I would yet again choose to do tricky utility. I would not go back to the old Devil Jin, which would mean buff jab, buff down for 1, buff down for 1-2, to yet again give him very strong fundamental utility, like buff his poking, Or God forbid, you know, they do something to up 4-4.
Yeah, they
like,
better
okay,
leave up 4-4 as is. I feel like up 4-4
okay,
is
it's not a
plenty used the
heating
way it is right now. You can use it as a panic tool. Low crush is faster than a hop kick by 1 frame. It's like pretty good panic tool if you think about it, like in heat. Safe, like it's a plus on block hop kick if you think about it. Just pretty good as a panic tool, probably better than up 4 and back 3 combined.
Anymore. And they yet again give it like a knockdown. Or, you know, they go, oh, back 4 should knock down a normal hit.
That looked so
Early
funny as
Tekken
well.
7 had that. This would just wall splat a normal hit. Knock down a normal hit. I hope they don't do that, because they are doing interesting things with the character. It's just that he got extremely unfair treatment so far in balance patches. To the point where it's turned into a meme, and rightfully so. Very unfair what's happened to the character. But so yeah, those are my thoughts on Devil Jin, and I am hoping that... I mean, I'm just gonna laugh if I see more nerfs in the...
I mean, more nerfs are probably just straight up impossible, but let's make a rundown of the things I would like to see change. So first off, increase the hitbox on this just slightly. Would make it much more usable. This, down for 1, make it -3 on block. Why? I mean, obviously -6 is just a shit number overall, but at the same time, Devil Jin is a character that got his movement buffed coming from Tekken 7, and a lot of people neglect this fact. A lot of people. His sidestep is average now. Average is pretty good, considering Kazuya has below average movement, for example. You still have a like almost Tekken 7 style backdash, and you still have the wave dash. So moving with this character feels really good. Really, really good. And they're also gonna buff movement. So the main issue this character has, in my opinion right now, is that he lacks the frames to make use of that movement. Sure, you have like wide standing 4 and stuff, but I think his down for 1 should still be -3. And that's the only thing you need to change about it. The tracking is reverse, the recovery is worse, the hitbox is slightly worse as well. Like, it gets evaded by his own up 4 depending on the situation, which basically never happened in Tekken 7. And the extension, it's fine. Like, you can still make do with it as a counter confirmable tool near the wall. I've grown like very used to this now. It's like I would slightly buff these two. And one thing I would like to see buffed on this character, which I currently just think is straight up, well, not useless, but doesn't see enough use in my opinion, is a CD1 up for it. For the fact that this is supposed to be a signature move according to his plates, titles, whatever, the things he can equip in like player customization, I just don't think this does enough currently. Like, at the very least, make it remove like 15 gray health. Literally slams you into the ground at like sonic speed. Should do something. Doesn't need to do much, but you get the point. I would love to see more reason to go for this as a combo ender over the general Morning Crow stuff maybe. Because right now there's no reason to use CD1 of 4 over like the Morning Crow 4 to ender into Oki. Which is a shame because CD1 of 4 is so damn cool. What else would I change? I feel like with this character, since his winner is so high and lower and intermediate levels, what you could do is you could take a look at back 3 and up for 1. Like up for 1, I would just nerf the tracking. The tracking is hella annoying. And back 3, I would probably just remove the heat engager and put it on 1+2 instead. Because this move, like the way you want to do balancing is you want to make lesser used moves more useful. And 1+2 is one of them. I see no reason to use 1+2 right now. So what you could do is you could make it a heat engager, make it only give a guaranteed follow-up on heat dash the way back 3 does it currently. And as I said, remove the heat engager from back 3 instead, because I feel like plus on block backswing is just very, very, very shitty and annoying design. So that's what I would do with like his heat engager stuff. The rest is fine. His back 1+2, I would make it +0 on block, because that way you can actually work with it without having to worry about losing the trade entirely by trading your jab with a standing 4, and you have great tracking tools to control the situation as well. So if you study your matchups properly, you get rewarded a lot for using this move against like their crouch situation. Obviously gonna be less strong as well with them being able to sidestep into both the background and the foreground, so I feel like this is a kind of cool change to give him another mid to work with. And I feel like the main issue with his mid is that there's very little variety. Even though he still has back 4-2, which in my opinion is a top 10 mid in the game. What else would I change? 4-4-2 pushback. and as Morning Crow Heat Smash, I would remove Grey Health entirely. So I feel like other than that, it just doesn't do much for the risk it carries currently. With the lacking range of it, of the move, they can backdash it consistently after up for 1 on block. It's not even a real mix-up. So at the very least, make it do something to make it useful outside of trying to kill your opponent with it. Because you do spend your entire heat bar for it. Other than that, what would I do? CD4, lock this launch behind heat, or remove it entirely and then buff CD4 on its own again. Bring back the range and the damage. 38 damage on CD4 core and 2.65 range. And the one thing I would also love to see come back is down 3 damage. Used to do 14 in Tekken 7, don't know why they nerfed it to 12 in Tekken 8. Used to be 12 in Tekken 6 or Tech 2 as... No, it should be in Tekken 6, I'm not sure. But it's lower than in Tekken 7, which I don't understand why, because this law is not all of the... Like, I've lost so many rounds because I just didn't manage to kill with this low, and then they survive like 2 HP. And in Tekken 8, it's kind of, as long as you don't kill your opponent, you're kind of losing, especially if they still have a heat bar or like a heat engager available. And yeah, Revert Morning Crow won't change. And other than that, like, I know it's a lot of changes, but it's like mostly small tweaks to make the character more bearable to fight and more consistent at higher levels. So like, it sounds like buff, but at the same time, I'm also trying to, at the very least, nerf some things like back 3 and up 4, which are hard to deal with. You can also nerf down back 1+2 if you want to. I don't really care. I feel like this move is too much on block. Like, single charge down back 1+2 is straight up broken. The full charge I don't think is broken. I think this is whatever. You can sidewalk it somewhat reliably if you lab your situations out. This is just straight up stupid. Like, they should probably make this less plus on block. But other than that, I feel like this character doesn't need much tweaking. One general change about Mishimas, I feel like electrics should go back to being -27 on Viv. I feel like they're too strong right now overall. They don't carry enough risk for what they do, especially now that combo damage is buffed. Like, combo damage is another thing. I feel like Devil Jin, if you put in enough time and effort, he has really good combo damage, so you don't need to touch that either. Something I would also keep in mind, you don't really need to buff his power mids, especially because in Season 2, with heat engagers giving you access to full crouch, Devil Jin will be able to use Westerning 2 as a mix tool. -12 launcher with good damage, and it's nearly the exact same speed as your health steep, so really good mix-up tool. But yeah, this is what I would wish for Season 2. I know it sounds like a lot of fuss, but just listen to it again and you'll quickly realize it's mostly small tweaks and not just huge buffs, which once again makes the character more bearable to fight and play as. Other than that, I feel like the character is very cool as a specialist character right now, and I have a lot of fun playing him. I didn't drop him a single time, no matter how low he was in the tier lists, no matter how much I bitched about the character, and will probably be the same in Season 2, no matter if he still gets nerfed or buffed. I just hope it's not too many nerfs if they do end up nerfing him again. But yeah, Momo out. Hope you liked the video. Peace.